True.
Oh, it's fucking funny.
All right. Hey, how you doing? I'm Randy Searles. I'm a developmental editor, uh, book coach, ghostwriter, former military, former Green Beret, former Ranger, and I'm here with my buddy Dan.
Hey, Randy, Dan Pace, retired Green Beret and now an author. Just looking forward to talking to you all today about, the ins and outs of transition to become a writer and some of the best practices in writing that we've seen and how we can help people kind of tell their stories in a better way.
Yep, that's why we're here. Yeah, and uh, so you're working on your next children's book?
hmm So I've got the It'll Buff Out's rolling out now, but it's in the last kind of post production phase. I've got a few weeks till I can launch it, but it's really done with writing. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to go ahead and start writing something else. Otherwise, I'm just kind of twiddling my thumbs waiting for this thing to go. So I started working on the next kids book in the series. The Whale and the Kraken came out a couple of months ago, and I've got a couple of sequels lined up to it or for it. And I've got the next one is called The Kraken's Quest, and so I've been laying it out. I've got it all outlined. I've got 4 chapters done, and we'll see if we can get that guy out maybe by the summertime. So yeah, been a lot of fun.
We've talked about book launching before, so maybe next episode we talk about like maybe you come up with your list, your checklist for book launching, like what you done, what you did before it launched, what you did the day before launch, what you did the week after, things like that.
I would love to do that. I actually have an informal checklist that I've slowly formalized over the last couple of launches to try and not miss wickets. I still always miss something, but it's at least getting a little more structure to it because there's just a lot. There's a lot you have to do at kind of the last minute to make it all come together, and it could be easy to mess up.
Hey, do you think you're going to do another Kickstarter for your second kids book? You think that's the way to go, or are you going to try to just go straight to Amazon and figure that out?
I think for this kids book, I want to try to go straight to Amazon to see if I can get enough first day sales to kind of drive it to be a better performer, because I used up all that magic, with Kickstarter supporters, and that had its own benefits, but it did take away from that. And the book has dribbled into Amazon's sales list for that reason. It just doesn't have that kind of strong push that my other books did. So I'm going to try it the other way and see how that works and accept a little more upfront cost in exchange for perhaps a little better algorithmic performance. But I don't know. Still working out the kinks.
Well, you have that email list of everyone who bought it. So ideally, they loved it and they want to buy the second one. So that should be easy. And if they all buy it in the same week or pre-buy it, then you should have those things. How are the I don't know. We haven't talked about this, but I know you know about it. You have the categories in Amazon, and you can kind of play with the algorithm a little bit by like looking for the ideal category for the Whale and the Kraken.
Yeah.
Are they I never looked at that. I never had to do a children's book, so I don't know what the categories look like, or if they're some of. So for those who don't know, when you look on the categories, you can choose up to 7 categories for each digital book, your written book, and your audiobook. And the categories you choose will tell whether you get into the bestseller list or not for the Amazon, like the top 10 or the top 1 or the top 5. And you can see, it'll tell you, like, if you sell so many books in one day, is it one day or 1 week? I can't remember.
One day.
One day.
It recycles every day. Yep.
So if you sell so many books on one day, you will be the number 1 in this category. And sometimes it's like 5 million, and sometimes it's like 5,000, and very, very few are less than 50. But there are occasionally you have to hunt for them, and then you have to say, yeah, I'm kind of in that category. And then you have to weigh whether you want to be in a category that no one will ever find you, but you'll be a bestseller number 1 because it might affect the algorithm, or if you want to pick 7 that are just categories that have a lot of books in them, and you're never going to get in the top 10 because you're not going to sell 500 the first day. And so, how are the categories in the children's books?
So it's very similar. So I found a category. One, I'm not a big fan of AI and writing, right? I really like to write, myself, and I find that's kind of just kind of personal, tie to the book. But what I love AI for is a lot of what we're talking about here, which is like the meta around writing. Like, hey, Gemini, tell me some categories that this book might be a good fit for. Upload the manuscript into it and say, scan through this book, tell me what you think it'd be a good fit for. Select based on what you're talking about. Good performance mixed with, good exposure mixed with appropriate. It produced 3 or 4 solid lists of 7 categories. Also keywords, really good about how to structure your keywords to make this, because it's not keywords, it's more like a key sentence that you can use to kind of make your book queryable. Using its recommendations, I was able to get the book to #1 new release a couple of days in, which was awesome. It's exactly what I was looking for. And I think it was children's marine literature, children's marine stories. And I'm like, well, it is a children's marine story, but I didn't know that was a category. Like, who knew that there's children's marine stories? You're like, exactly. It's like me and 2 pirate books. I'm like, well, all right.
You and 2 crayon books.
Exactly. So I highly recommend using those tools to explore a lot of the kind of business and technical side of book publication, because honestly, it just knows things I don't. It has access to data that I don't. And I think it probably queries a lot of the same data that the tools that you and I used when we were setting up the categories for It Was What It Was. It's pulling the same data, right? It's all the same stuff that's out there. And so I found it to be pretty useful for that. And I will definitely keep using that. And when we're talking about checklists as a best practice, in future book launches.
So is your goal this time around, by not using Kickstarter, to get more ratings? Is that what you're missing? You didn't get ratings because no one bought it off Amazon, or is it because you didn't get the purchases, so you didn't get the algorithm? Because you said you were on one of the bestseller lists, so that was good. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what you want to do. And really, if you have a bunch of people that are going to buy it and they buy it over the first 2 or 3 days, you're only going to be on that list for those 2 or 3 days. So are you going to get any more boost, do you think, this way?
My hope is that yes, that it'll trickle out over 2 to 3 days, because usually I can get a spike of purchases for a day, but if I cast the whole net to everybody I kind of know and all the readers that have enjoyed my stuff before, over about 4 or 5 day period, a lot of those people will pick up the book. But you really want to get some consistency to kind of get those first few pushes. And my hope is that if I take I think it was 200 and some change books that I sold on Kickstarter and even run 2/3 of those, like 166 books, into day 1 through 5 Amazon sales, that I can really move that along. Also, to your point about ratings or reviews, you can review a book even if you didn't buy it on Amazon, but it's not quite the same. And I think people's inclination to click on it and do it is lower. And so I would love to see more. I shoot for 10%. I guess you'd call it I don't know the word, conversion rate, a 10% conversion rate for books sold to books reviewed. That's about what I set out with It Was What It Was. If I can get 10%, then I'm solid. The Whale and the Kraken's about half that. It's at about 5% conversion. And that, in large part, I attribute to the Kickstarter kind of people just not being interested in logging in and doing that. And that's okay, right? It's just lesson learned, but it does, fewer reviews mean just less credibility. And so it's important to kind of establish that credibility up front.
I think I checked your Was What It Was had like almost 200 reviews on it. So you sold like 1,000 books. That's freaking great, man.
It's I'm at 2,500 books sold so far. And so it's moving. It still sells consistently. I still sell probably 30, 40 a month. And I'm hoping, actually just reached out to the National Infantry Museum and the Army Museum and a few other programs to try and get it stocked in AAFES. So I'm hoping to have enough credibility now to take it to the next level and really present it to, more traditional platforms and say, hey, look, this is actually pretty solid. It's sold well. I've got a nice, couple of reviews. I've got a good dust jacket comment. Would you like to carry this? And I'm hoping we can move toward yes. But again, if I had all this figured out, then we'd probably have a slightly different flavor on our podcast, right? Like me and you will be coming at this from a different angle, but we're still in the learning phase on some of this. So still a challenge.
I'm actually really curious about the process to get it at AAFES. I don't know how you figured that out, but we can talk about that on a different episode, because that's interesting to me as well.
If I succeed, then I'll give you best practices. Right now, I think I at least know who to talk to and who to pitch, and so I've made my pitches, and we'll see, over the course of a week, if we can come back and make some and land some fish. I don't know.
Sounds good. Well, I think we agreed today that we were going to talk in support of your the Kraken's Quest, which is the good kuka without the actually being both letters. That's kudos to you. Talking about character arc and how
Mhm.
you show that. So this is Randy Searle's best practices for character arc. And I do this with the story grid all the time because we have that mentor program in the story grid that I'm a part of. And it's all about your scenes, which I imagine, since you're writing children's books with pictures, you have a scene every page, whatever, like more or less, whatever's on the page is a kind of a self-imposed scene because it's like you're trying to make the reader feel something by the photo and or the picture and also what you wrote. Is that about right?
It's a children's chapter book, so I would say a
Oh,
scene develops over 10 pages. Every chapter is a scene, and
uh,
it's got about 12 chapters, and so a lot of pictures, but it's somewhere more like an old Roald Dahl book. If you picture like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's kind of
okay.
that style where there's a lot of pictures, but the pictures there's also a good bit of text.
Okay. Well, so the best way to show character change and character arc is by determining like what you want your character to be in the beginning, what you want to be at the end, and then the events that are going to cause that change. And then you throw them each scene, you throw them into circumstances where they're making a difficult decision. And difficult doesn't mean like have to. I mean, you're writing a children's book, it doesn't have to be life or death, and it's something like that. It can be just you setting up the stakes in the scene so that it's a hard decision for the kid, the kraken, the whale, whoever's in the scene, to make the decision that he has to choose over, his family or getting his favorite candy, spending time with his mom or getting his favorite candy or his friend, this friend or that friend or something like that. I guess those would be the equivalents of an elementary or a mid-grade kind of decision-making process. But let's do it in a conventional way, and then you can taper it down to children. So you have in the beginning, you have a protagonist that doesn't have courage. He doesn't have skills. So he gets into a situation, a rough situation. He runs. He's not there to support his buddy. It's everyone for himself, right? And then over the course of the book, he will see other people making choices to defend him or to help him. And so by the end, he learns the lesson that, hey, supporting your friends is a good thing. It's an honorable thing, and I should reciprocate it because they've been there for me. And so you put him in the end of the book, you'll see him rise up to the situation, right? And it's all shown by the choices he makes in every scene of the book where he shows up. You see what kind of person he is, what's important to him, who's important to him in the beginning. Maybe he's selfish. Maybe he doesn't believe in anyone. No one's ever helped him before, so he doesn't believe in helping everyone. So he's making selfish choices. And as it goes along, he sees people not making selfish choices, so he's learning his lesson. And slowly he's changing as well until by the end of the book, he's making choices that support the group and not just himself. Does that make sense?
It does. I like that. I like trying to figure out now. I'm trying to figure out which attributes to kind of start with and where I want to end. Like the character is sort of an unwitting or an unwilling hero, right? He's kind of feels like he's a little dragged into this. He's a little confused. He's certainly unprepared, and he gets out there and he's immediately just overwhelmed, like terrified. He's on his own. I mean, he's a kid, so he's out, in the ocean trying to solve these problems. And I had kind of informally thought about, okay, well, what does that really look like? I like the idea of just really capturing it. Like, okay, so I'm really looking at like this kind of scared, unconfident character who's got a good heart, and he kind of he has these encounters that are going to eventually build his confidence through basically adversity, like the old ranger school model, right? You don't know what you're doing, but you're going to have a lot of experiences that are going to kind of make you kind of drag you through the mud a little bit, and by the end of it you're going to feel pretty good about what you need to do. And I like that. I like adding that structure to, or just putting labels on what you're trying to do, right? Like just really, instead of just pantsing it, we're going to plan it. And I like that because I hadn't planned that angle.
Yeah, and so another part about each chapter and scene is there should be some kind of value change, like, and it could be as simple as I'm thinking of big things right now because that's what I've been working with lately. But basically, something has to change. He can't start the scene and then be exposed to a bunch of different options and things, and then do nothing and say, nah. So I had a scene, and this is a grown-up scene, where a coach was, confronting a girlfriend about, like, she was influencing the player, and he's playing worse. He wasn't showing up in practices on time and stuff like that. And he was trying to buy her off and send her away. And, and instead of actually her saying, so he wanted to make her go away, and she didn't want to accept the bribe. And in the end, she came in with nothing, and she left with nothing, and nothing changed. Like, she's like, screw this, I'm not going to take it. So nothing really changed in the whole thing. So why did we even have it? And it goes back to, everyone claims that Indiana Jones is like this, the Raiders of the Lost Ark,
mm-hmm.
that it's a pointless movie because if Indiana Jones had never gotten involved in the whole thing, the Nazis would have got the Ark, and they would have opened it and all died, and nothing would have changed in the whole movie. And so that's one of the things that everyone argues, that it's a pointless movie. Of course, there's a lot of excitement that happened in the middle that they always leave out, and that we don't really care what happened. But in a way, it's kind of true. And so you want to make sure that your scenes actually have something change for your protagonist, that there's something changing in their life in the scene, whether they're getting new information, so it's like wisdom, or they're getting new tools to solve problems, or so when you plan these out, you have to plan out the big ones. So you got like 10 chapters, you said, or something. So hey, they start here, they end here. What's going to make them change along the way, and where are they going to change? Ideally, there's an all is lost moment around the 70% mark, where they're forced to change because they're put into a really, really, really situation where it looks like they can't even get what they want, whatever the purpose of the book is. But even given that, in the individual scenes, once you've identified what their purpose is, there should be a change it shouldn't just be a telling of what's going on, but the protagonist should actually get closer to their goal or farther away from their goal. And that should be the change in the chapter.
That makes sense. I think I've grokked the idea that you want to make sure and show the change and not tell the change. I think I've gotten that down, but still structuring out the flow, the overall change is something. I mean, I kind of knew conceptually what I want to do, but I love the idea of like playing it out, laying it out a little better. Like, I've taken some notes on this. Like, I like building toward the all is lost moment. I kind of know what that will be, but I would like to actually build it informally. And then I was just thinking of the chapter I wrote today where, so basically, I'm mimicking the Perseus myth, right? So, this Kraken's on the quest to save his dad who's sick, and he's scared. He's swimming through this algae field. There's something huge out there lurking that's going to eat him, and he hears this cry for help below him, and his first instinct is to flee, right? Like, nope, not stopping for that. I'm going to get eaten. But then he has the moment of like, I can't do that. I got to go down. And he goes and saves the guy and the little manta ray. So he saves this manta ray, and they, kind of disappear into this hole. And the manta ray turns out to know something that helps him. And so I love the idea of, starting with confused and cowardly, like, okay, you overcame that. You showed that you were a better person for it. And now you found a tool that's going to help you kind of move toward your, the objective of your quest. But I just need to tweak some of it to make sure that I'm having all of the chapters kind of flow that way. Anyway, that's just me taking notes as you're talking.
So, interesting story. I met a military spouse that what she does is she publishes children's books. She's not a publisher, but she helps you publish them. And so traditionally, I think. So if you want, I'll make that connection. You can talk to her. I have no idea what she charges or what she does or what that's all included in, but that's like her job. So I don't know if you're interested in that, but I could connect you. I think she's a military spouse. Maybe I got her mixed up with someone else, but she does children's books, if nothing else. So
I love it. Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, is she an agent? I mean, it kind of sounds like an agent, but I
no,
mean,
no, she's not an agent. She just helps people publish their books. I don't know what that means. I mean, I was talking to her about something else, and I found out what she did, and I was like, oh, I know somebody. And so I meant to bring this up to you earlier, but we brought it up on the show, so now it's live.
that's good. No, I like it. My mindset in almost all of this stuff is actually I met with another local author today because we were just trying to exchange some best practices or worst practices. But I'll talk to almost anybody once to say, like, maybe you know a thing that I just don't. Maybe you know a secret path to get to this objective that I'm just not aware of. And I think a lot of people have a lot of value to provide. So I'd love to talk to her. It's possible that she's catering to somebody a few steps back from me that's like, hey, I have an idea and I just want to turn it into a book. She's like, okay, let me help you out with that. But it's possible that she's, 10 steps ahead of me. And she's like, no, actually, I can take your launch and make it a successful launch. Because certainly in the children's market, I struggle with that. I don't really know how to tap into that audience and make that work. I don't have any connections in it in the area. And so would love it. Would love to talk to her and see what she's got to say.
Another person called me who had children's books. She's a spouse. She's definitely a military spouse, and she had a children's book that she wanted to. And she was a seventh group spouse, actually, former seventh group spouse, and still a spouse, but no longer a seventh group.
There's a few former seventh group spouses out there, yeah.
And she had a children's book, but she just had the print. She didn't have the art. And so I talked, and then I just happened to talk to this other young lady a couple of days later, and I was like, oh, I should put them together. So I put them together. I don't know what happened after that, but that when I said she didn't have pictures, she's like, oh, well, I don't do the pictures. I guess I can put her in the right direction, but I don't know anything about the pictures. So I don't think she does that part of it. I think she's actually where you're at. Well, you're not finishing the book yet, but she's like, it's a good time to talk. Like, hey, this is what do I offer? What do you offer? What do we do? And what's the pro and con of me, hiring you or whatever. So that's something you can talk to her about. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think she's an agent, but I could be wrong, to tell you the truth. So, but anyway, so I'll connect you with that. I have an urge to talk about. You probably haven't watched it.
What's that?
War Machine.
I actually have seen War Machine. I haven't seen a lot of movies. I watched it in Afghanistan in 19 because how could you not watch it?
Not that War Machine.
Not the one with Brad Pitt where he plays basically what the hell's his name? General McChrystal. He basically plays General McChrystal. Isn't that one? Or are you talking War Machine like the Marvel movie?
It just came out.
Oh, the Marvel movie.
No,
okay.
It's not a Marvel movie. It stars the guy from Reacher, the huge guy. And he plays a ranger. He's like 6'8" and like 280 pounds or something. He plays Jack Reacher on Amazon. And you haven't seen the TV series with Amazon with Jack Reacher? He's like literally like he's bigger than Tom Cruise for sure. But he's like 6'8" and he's like 280 pounds and he's got biceps bigger than my head. And he's basically the actual character from the books. And so they're doing the third season this year. The first season is really good. You should watch it. Anyway, so he plays a ranger going through RASP. It's basically I watched a bunch of people comment on it, and I called it. I told my wife the same thing. It's basically Predator, but not as good. They go in RASP and they're on their final exercise and they have to do a down pilot exercise where they have to recover a down pilot. And and so there's only, there's only like a platoon left of guys. The guys
have been picked off, right? They're picking them off like left and right. They just
not only that, but for some reason they moved RASP to Colorado.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Sure.
Surely they didn't move to Colorado. I Googled it and I was like, nope, it's in Benning. So whatever reason they moved it to Colorado, and they made it like a whole compound, like a 7th group compound, like it's all for only for RASP, and they made it like SFAS pretty much. where you go out to the middle of nowhere and you gotta perform and do all this stuff. And so they get to the last exercise, and he has to take this platoon out and to do this down pilot rescue. And they're out there, and all through this show, you're seeing that in the background, the TV, there's this asteroid coming. Like, who's this asteroid? Where's this asteroid? Where's it going to hit? Can you tell us, Mr. Scientist? And so they're out there looking, or they're almost at the objective, and this freaking asteroid lands right in front of them. And they're like, and they're like, is that it? Is it? They get some high tech stuff. We gotta get that down pilot. So go take it out. And so they're supposed to blow the plane, and it's like all high tech kind of. It's a weird kind of UFO. Yeah, they're supposed to blow the down pilot plane and then recover the pilots who are supposed to be kidnapped down the road or something. So they put some explosives on it, and it just turns into a robot with unlimited ammunition, and it's like the size of a 3-story house, and it just keeps coming, and it has unlimited ammunition, and it kills everybody. It kills the whole platoon. It keeps killing everybody. They keep running. They rappel off a cliff because that's good Ranger training, and it keeps coming.
And RASP. It's RASP.
That's great.
It's like, all right.
And then it just keeps coming. It keeps coming. And everybody dies except for there is a token black guy, and he got injured in the very first incident, and they had him in a Skadco, and they were carrying him the whole time, and people just kept dying except for this guy. And finally, the guy, Buddy, carries him like 100 kilometers to the RAS compound.
The RASP compound where the RTB cadre is waiting.
He's walking through the RAS compound, and they turned the RAS compound into a command center because aliens. Meanwhile, while they were in RASP, aliens were landing everywhere, and they're doing it. And somehow they have all their combat gear in the RASP compound. I don't know why. And so they're all mobilizing and making a thing. And he walks through everybody. No one helps him. He's all bloody. He's limping in. He's carried this guy on his shoulder, and he walks all the way to the tab and the scroll in the middle of the RAS compound and puts the guy down on it. And finally, the medics come and like, oh, we got to get this guy. And they just put him on another litter and run away. And they don't say anything to the dude. And then he gets interviewed by the sergeant major, who's played by Dennis. What's his name? Yeah, Dennis Quaid. So the sergeant major is played by Dennis Quaid, and he gives all his intel, and then he's put in charge the new RASP graduate, the only one that graduated from his class, because everyone died.
This is an untabbed private.
Yeah, they have him speak to they have like 200, 400, whatever Rangers, all combat loaded, and then he gives them a hooah speech, and everyone throughout the movie, they're going, Rangers lead the way, all the way. And then they all run out to the Blackhawks. There's like 50 Blackhawks on the tarmac, and they all get on them, and they launch. And that's the end of the movie.
That sounds terrible.
It's a
terrible movie. That sounds horrible.
It's so bad.
They don't have a military editor. They don't have anybody there to like, hey, that's dumb. Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, Predator was good. But there's this point where Schwarzenegger is against the Predator, and he's putting the cold mud on so the guy can't detect him with the heat, and he's camouflaged, and he's jumping on him and stuff. But this is literally a 3-story tall robot with unlimited ammunition. What are you going to do against that? There's nothing, and you're just running away from it the whole time. And then you never actually see the dang thing die, or any of the other 500 robots that are out there. But the Rangers are going to take them on in Blackhawks.
It's just, you just look at it, you're like, I mean, come on, whoever military edited this thing, like a RASP class is not the same thing as the Schwarzenegger's, team in Predator. Like, you get that's a seasoned commando
with a minigun.
Yes. Even aliens, you're like, okay, Colonial Marines, they're a squad of Marines. You probably have some new guys, but you got some seasoned dudes. But a RASP class is by definition almost all cherries, right? I mean, it's brand new dudes who don't know shit.
Basic training.
Exactly. And you're like, that doesn't really pass any kind of sniff test at all. And I don't know. I mean, have you've been to SWIC? I've never been to the behind the scenes at RASP. I have no idea what it looks like, but I know what the equipment at SWIC looks like. And if you go out there and you're like, we're going to stand up a jock, you're like, with your 25-year-old laptops and a lot of broken shit and a lot of guys who, are trying to probably recover their family life a little bit. Like, this is probably not the scene that, that people imagine it's going to be, right?
Oh, what? But they gave the Rasputin demolitions, and there's no cadre with them. They're just like, go to this objective and put the demolitions on the bird. Who taught them demolitions?
There's so much wrong with that. We were like, look, man, I mean, the whole point of RASP is assessment and selection. So the idea that you'd go out and not be assessed by any cadre, or that you'd have nobody out there with the lunatics who are starved and hungry wandering around with explosives to like make sure they don't kill themselves, it's just crazy. You're like, this.
Or
You
who
give
gave
it
them live ammo? Why would they have live ammo on this exercise? Why would they accidentally shoot the pilot?
just pick a more plausible like setting for this. RASP is just a poor setting for that particular, they could have done with some other selections perhaps that could have made it a little more like, okay, there's really a lot of really talented guys here, like they're all kind of vying for the best, but it's a little more gentlemanly and they're actually trying to prove themselves. But RASP is like basic part 2 for Rangers, and you're like, it's not even a Ranger school class. You're like, I don't know. That you lost me there, right? The plot lost me with RASP.
Yeah, and so I thought the preview was really good. Whoever did the preview, kudos. I thought they were on a mission and they walked up on an alien ship, and I was like, oh, that's actually, I like that.
That's cooler. That's way better. If they were actually a true
ammo and stuff, right?
Well, if they were a platoon on a mission to rescue a down pilot, real worlds, like doing some CSAR, that totally makes sense. Let's turn into an alien. Great. And that is Predator, right? That is actually the exact plot of Predator. So maybe they were like, well, that's too close. We got to make it RASP. I don't know. That just sounds like Screen Actors Guild strike material. We're like, I don't know. We don't got a good enough writer to make this work. So we're just going to kind of dribble it in there.
My comparison is I was in the Rangers, and I was reading a book that I bought at the AAFES, and it was called Night of the Ranger. Now, whatever my buddies call me, I'm like, hello, who's this? And they're like, Night. And I have to give them the of the Ranger before they'll ever talk to me. It's like, come on, man. What do you want? Like, Night. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. Because they saw me reading it, and they're like, look, he's reading Night of the Ranger. But it was about a Ranger school class in the mountains. And they ended up with, stumbling on some white supremacists who took their black RI hostage. And so they had to go rescue him. And so they were planning raids to go rescue him because they were separated from the cadre. They couldn't get back to the camp. And this guy and their cadre had been kidnapped by these guys. And so they went in and rescued him. And they did a bunch of stuff, and they ended up getting, messed up really bad, and they finally, a couple of them got back. Then the final assault, I don't know who wrote this. The final assault was a mixture of CAG and C-37 taking down the KKK in the mountains or something.
Wow.
It was freaking nuts.
man, if I'm ever captured, who I don't want to rescue me is a bunch of kids in mountain phase of Ranger school. Like, I want the tiredest, hungriest, most retarded people in the world to rescue me. By the way, they have no ammo. And you're like, it's so unfortunate. You're like, that's all we've got. They probably don't know where they are. They're exhausted. They're starving. Let's get in there and save them, boys. You're like,
and Silly was a better movie than this one. Than RASP.
Still better.
At least Ranger schools usually got more experienced people.
Exactly. But total tangent. Can you imagine the unwanted attention that a 6'8" Ranger would attract in any of those courses? Like, it would be so horrible to be the 6'8" dude. Every person would be out to destroy your soul because you just scream, "Person I should fuck with." That would be. I guess
it would be. Would it be any different than what's the guy that got killed? That was a football player. I mean, he was 6 foot something, wasn't
he? Yeah. Well, we're talking about Tillman, Pat Tillman.
Yeah. I mean, he was a pretty big guy, but probably
he drew a lot of attention.
Yeah, but he was probably famous as hell. So and he was also game for it too, right?
He was an NFL player, right? I mean, he's probably good. He's like, I got this. You're not gonna out PT me.
How many push-ups or whatever, man? But the premise of this movie was that he was like a mechanic or support guy in Iraq, and his brother was using Quick Clot to in his Hummer to repair the tube or whatever he was in the oil leak that he had, and it wasn't working. It kept blowing, and they called the mechanic. And so this guy shows up and he's like, God damn it, I told you not to use that quick clock shit. And he's like, and they're fixing it for him. And then his brother's like, come on, bro, you want to be a ranger like me. We're going to go get rangers together. It's going to be great. And so just as he's leaving, they get hit by incoming. Everyone dies except for this guy. He was knocked unconscious. He wakes up. Everyone's dead except his brother's barely breathing. So he puts him on his shoulder and he goes and he walks like 100 kilometers. And so you see the beginning, but you don't know. He ends up getting a Silver Star for it. Mm-hmm. And you don't know exactly what happened after that until he has some flashbacks later on. So what happened, and everyone's like, oh yeah, war hero, Silver Star. And they're kind of not making fun of him, but they're staying their distance or respecting him a little bit and stuff like that. And then he's like, yeah, they gave me a Silver Star because 100 meters from the base, when it was just in sight, I collapsed and passed out and my brother died. And then they gave me a Silver Star, and they gave me a Silver Star for failing. And so that was his like weak, his thing that was carrying
psychological baggage to overcome.
When he carries the last guy into the Ranger tab, that's like the kind of the mirror.
It's catharsis, right? It's like, yes, I've overcome the thing, and like, oh man, that is cheesy as shit.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
I like that guy in the Reacher movie and TV show though. But yeah, I was hoping it would be better. I mean, I was like, he looks like a Ranger. I mean, he looks like the epitome of a Ranger. He'd be good on a Ranger recruiting poster. But yeah. Maybe when we had that problem, they had that problem in SFAS. Remember when they disarmed the cop and someone got killed?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can accept the training stuff happens. I get it. I just again, some of it just stretches the realm of possibility. Like it's just like, okay, you took me too far. Like I could suspend disbelief for a movie. I'm okay with that. You asked too much of my suspension. I can't suspend that much disbelief. I just can't.
As soon as they went to Colorado, which is like pretty much the beginning of the movie, I was like, who?
What?
Who is the advisor on this movie? Why do they think this is a good idea?
I mean, you're a military editor. Like, I mean, there is your equivalent for movies. Undoubtedly, there are lots of dudes who do that. I mean, hell, you could be called to do that. I feel like one person reading through the script that had at least been to basic training and been like, slow down. Let's talk about this just a little bit different. And if you got an actual expert, you could probably
had SEALs advising. They're like, yeah, put them in Colorado. Yeah, they got Army units everywhere.
Well, I say I could have made them all SEALs instead. I mean, maybe that would have been different. Maybe it would have been like, all right, well, maybe it's more plausible. I don't know. I at least wouldn't have called bullshit on it because I don't know. Because I've never been to, BUD/S or any of their equivalent courses. But I'm pretty familiar with selection and the RASP process. I'm like, no, don't believe it.
I was trying to tell my wife doesn't really know anything about the military except what I've told her, and she doesn't believe half of it. And I was like, she's like, well, did you go to this course? What do you know about it? I was like, I went with this course when it was called RIP. She's like, RIP? Why was it called RIP? I was like, because it was back then. It was just a gut check. And she's like, what's a gut check? I was like, it's just. We did the freaking obstacle course like 3 times a day, the rain, shine, snow, whatever. We sat there in the front leaning rest position with our eyes closed until someone quit or some mysterious person walked through the gravel and supposedly quit. We'd run around the thing until it's time to do the obstacle. We just did that for 3 weeks.
It's just torture.
It was just like, who's going to quit next? It was just like, that was what it was about, whether you quit or not. And it was, and it's like, well, and obviously you didn't quit. I was like, I mean, at the time, I didn't really think it was an option. I thought it was just kind of I didn't think it was a joke. I was suffering, but I don't think anyone really quit. No one who wanted to be there quit. I don't think. I can't recall. I mean, there's people walking in gravel, but the instructors are walking in the gravel. So who knows?
Nobody. So it's the same. Like my kids and I, occasionally my kids will be like, what was this like? And we'll watch like one of the Discovery Channel shows on like Ranger School or whatever. And they always ask like, didn't you want to quit, Dad? I'm like, of course, every single day I wanted to quit. Like that's, I think, the point of the experience. Like if you don't want to quit, there's something either wrong with you or I don't know, maybe you're just a much better person than me. I wanted to quit all the way through all that crap. You You just don't, because I don't know. I don't really even know why. There's
I
no
don't
real
know.
reason.
I did have to tell a story in front of a bunch of someone in my editor. I was on a Zoom. There's 20 people, and for some reason, someone asked me. He was like, do you have any stories about like anything hard you did? Like,
I hate some of those questions.
Well, but I went to Lancero school, so I was like, and so
speaking
for
of
me,
checks,
Lancero school was like, because I didn't speak Spanish very well at the time, so it was just like super hard. Because even in normal schools, you do what they say and they torture you. But when you don't understand what they're saying and you almost think you deserve it, you're like, if I only knew how to say something, then I wouldn't be tortured. But you really would probably anyway. And there was this one time in Lancero school where the snake class, just like you get in Ranger school, you get the snake class. This is a snake. Don't touch this snake. Blah blah blah. And in this case, they have a snake pit that's about waist deep and like, I don't know, 5 by 5 meters, just a square, and they have the bleachers around it. And they were given a class on, hey, catch a snake with a forked stick and blah, blah, blah. And hey, you gringo. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, get in the snake pit. I'm like, what? So I get in the snake pit and they take this burlap bag and they smack it like this in the ground. And then they throw this really pissed snake into the middle of the thing. And it's like, and I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, catch the snake, catch Margarita. And I was like, well, that guy had a forked stick. No, the Ranger way or the Lancero way with your hand, And so I'm talking to these writers and they're all like, and I'm like, what did you do? I was like, well, I caught the snake. I mean, the snake.
What was he going to do?
My hat, and I had my hat out here and it went for my hat and I got it by luck and I had it and they said kiss it and then they said release it and they were disappointed that it wasn't more exciting. But the next guy they brought in tried my hat trick on the same snake and the snake didn't fall for it and he got his arm. He's running around the snake and they're like,
that's great.
And I was like, but really this is what we've been talking about, right? It's the crisis question. It's like the difficult decision. So it's like, why was it difficult? Why didn't you just leave? I was like, well, I was in this course representing the United States.
Exactly.
And so I had to make a choice if I wanted to embarrass my country by being a wimp and getting out, fully knowing probably like 95% chance the snake probably wasn't poisonous. Now, doesn't mean it wouldn't have bit me, but I probably wouldn't die.
It's still Colombia, though. You can't be 100% sure in Colombia. Like, they might just be okay with killing a gringo. Like, sometimes
they got the wrong snake. Anyway, so but I was pretty sure that they weren't going to kill an American that they had invited to their course. They just wanted to see if he'd be a coward. And so I had to good. And it just so happened to work out in my favor. I mean, it could have gone seriously the other way. I could have been screaming with this snake attached to my arm and never used my arm.
All your cool points. Could have lost all cool points.
It doesn't matter if you wrestle the snake or not. When you first, as soon as you start screaming, you lose all your cool points. And so they just like, I don't understand. I was like, well, I mean, it's a crisis question. You can use that in any of your books. Trust me.
You had to be there, right? You had to be there. But those situations come up so often. We did so I didn't go to Lancero school. We went down to Lancero compound in Leticia and did 2 weeks of training. But we did the gentleman's version, right? It was just took the team down and trained. But we had the animal pit where they have all their crap and they had all the electric eels in there. Like, you want to grab that eel? You want to grab that eel? I'm like, well, not really. They're like, you want to grab this? Like, oh, I'll grab the eel, right? Because at that point, it just becomes like this ego thing. You're like, I'm not going to embarrass America by being the guy that won't grab the eel. So you grab the eel, and it's horrible. It's like touching a car. You're like,
it's just like the movies, right?
It's just exactly as bad as you imagine.
It's the same thing, man. So this was way after the snake. Well, it's like the next day, and there was a barrel with the electric eel, and they're like, "Hey, gringo." Because the instructors just like to mess with me it's
probably the same barrel. It's probably the same damn eel in the same barrel, right? I mean, it's not that long.
I mean, they were embarrassed. I was just physically stronger than them, and I actually knew all the stuff they were trying to teach me. And so, like, the guy was like super jacked, right? But he was like Colombian jacked, so he was kind of short and small. And then he's like, "Want to race me up the rope?" I was like, "Sure." because you're well rested and working out in the gym every day, and I'm in Lancero school and eating rice every day. Let's do it. So we do it, and he beats me up like a little monkey, right? But I touch the top and beat a Lancero Ranger Green Beret American. I just let go, and I do a PLF, and I beat him down. He's like, "Oh, you lose." I was like, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was like who gets up and touches the top and gets down first. So I'd say I win. He's like, you could have broke your leg, minus 500 points. I was like, oh, that's how we're going to play this. You challenged me. I'm okay. I won, and I lose 500 points. That's fair. Sure, whatever you want to do. Pull your little shenanigans. Everyone here knows I won.
Is that where J.K. Rowling got the idea for, Harry Potter and Snape's relationship? It might have been your story. Your story could have inspired J.K. Rowling to, develop that point system that you lose.
One system in Lancero School is exactly like Hogwarts.
It's the same thing.
I was like, hey, what was the thing? Oh, yeah. So I went in when I graduated. There, we had to stand in line, and we had to go in front of this big council of all the instructors for the last 4 months or whatever it was. And they're like, and I was waiting in line. This guy comes up and he's like, he starts speaking to me in Spanish. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm too tired to understand your Spanglish. And he's like, I just got through in English. He goes, I just got through the American Ranger School. I was like, oh, great, Lieutenant. That's a really great accomplishment. Congratulations. And he's like, and I don't think anyone should go through Lancero if they don't speak fluent Spanish. It's like, that's a good idea. I wish someone had brought that up before I got into this course. That would have saved me a lot of problems. But here we are. He's like, what's going on right now? I was like, nope, standing in another line, just like any other day in Lancero School. And he's like, well, you're about to go in front of these people, and there's all these people, and then they're going to ask you, if they ask you to come in front of the podium instead of on top of the podium, that means you're going to, you didn't pass. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. So I go in there, and they bring me in there, and they say, come in front of the podium. So I'm standing in front of the podium, and they're all telling me whatever I don't know, because I don't speak Spanish that well. And so
I'm tired. Thank you. I don't care.
They're talking to me, blah, blah, blah. And then they all look at me expecting me to do something. And one guy goes, you pass. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks a lot. And they're like, okay. And so later on, I'm in the celebration, and that stupid lieutenant comes up, and he's like, hey, were you scared? I was like, when? And he's like, when you had to stand in front of the podium. I was like, no, because I actually didn't care. He's like, what do you mean? Lancero's the most prestigious school in the world. I was like, no, that's Ranger School. Lancero School. I never even heard of Lancero School until I got here, like the day before I got here. He's like, that's not true. Lancero's the most famous school. And I was like, I think you're talking about Ranger School.
The sad truth is that nobody outside of the Army knows what either of them is. Like nobody in our Army knows what Lancero is. Nobody, right? There's like 5 people in the 7th group that know it, and nobody else. And then Ranger School, the second you go talk to like your mother-in-law, you're like, yeah, I graduated Ranger School. So I literally had this experience with, might have been my mother-in-law or my aunt or something. I don't remember who it was, because it was like 15 years ago I graduated. She's like, oh, like Forest Ranger School? Are you a qualified Forest Ranger now? I'm like, yep. Pretty much just that. It's the same. Like, that's why I look like this.
I was in a hospital in Houston because of cellulitis, because I was the bridge over the wire. They said, hey, private, get on the wire, and they all ran over me. I got cellulitis from the exercise. We were practicing for Panama, and that was like a year before Panama, and but it was the exact Panama. I didn't know that at the time, but it was the exact everything we invaded in Panama. And I had cellulitis. My knee swelled up like this big, and I had to find a hospital that took TRICARE at the time. And I went to NASA, the NASA hospital down right outside of Houston. And I was there, and the nurse was like, "Oh, are you in the military?" He's like, "No." She's like, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "I'm a Ranger." I didn't say military. I just assumed she knew by my haircut. But I said I was a Ranger, and that's exactly what she said. Oh, like a Forest Ranger? I was like, no, not a Forest Ranger.
This is, yes, a Forest Ranger. Yes, it's the same. None of that shit translates. Your entire DD-214, all of it. The second I walk around town now, I go to Walmart. It doesn't matter. Nobody knows what any of that stuff means. And
don't say that, Dan. Don't say that.
It's a little sad, but it's a little true. It's like, oh.
I don't think we talked enough about writing today for my social media expert to give you. But hopefully she got something in the first half hour.
We covered it up front. It's good though, man. It's good stuff.
All right, man. I'll talk to you next week. Good to go.
Absolutely. Hey, see you next week, Randy.
All right, bye.